Welcome to The Reconnect with Carmen LaBerge. We're applying the mind of Christ to the matters of the day so that you can connect the eternal with the everyday and get ready to head out into the world that God so loves in ways that honor Jesus. So let's get started. This is The Reconnect.
Your daily encouragement that God has the world in the hollow of his hand.
This is The Reconnect with Carmen LaBerge on Faith Radio.
If we're gonna fly, we fly like eagles, arms out wide. If we're gonna fear, we fear no evil. We will rise. By your power we will go. By your spirit we are bold. If we're gonna stand, we stand as giants. If we're gonna walk, we walk as lions.
Hello, my friend. I'm Carmen LaBerge. You are listening to The Reconnect. So I feel like if you're out there in public, you're out there in a public space, you're on a beach, you're in a public park, you know, if you're doing your thing out there in public, like, you're inviting me. I mean, I know you didn't send me an invitation, but I feel like if you're out there in a public place and I happen to be, well, in the vicinity, I feel like I'm invited. So I want to tell you something about something that I witnessed it was a public park. It was in central Nashville. It was the most strange and, you know, I have witnessed a lot of strange and tragic gatherings. So when I tell you that it was a strange and tragic gathering in the park, I mean, so many things could come to mind, right? Well, it looked a little bit like a wedding. Not like flowers and people dressed up, but there were definitely two distinct groups of people and a couple facing each other, but not facing each other like we're super happy to be standing here together, not lovey-dovey, more like a standoff. Definitely not holding hands, but a man and a woman standing in the center, facing each other, and then sort of she had a group and he had a group, kind of like a wedding. And then there was this third group that only had 3 people in it. That's when I could, and I would identify those 3, 2 young men and a young woman, looked like they could have been this couple's children, young adults. So as I approached, I could see that the 2 people in the middle, the man and the woman, were each holding a piece of paper. So I'm just going to confess, I couldn't resist. I had to get close enough to hear what was going on. And again, it's a public park. I feel like if you're doing something in public, I'm invited. And so I got close enough that I could hear. And I got to tell you, it's hard to stun me, but I was stunned. The man was speaking and he wasn't reciting vows. Get this. They were disavows. He was disavowing her, disavowing their marriage, disavowing their life together. What was happening, what I was witnessing, was the undoing of what had at one point in time been a wedding. I'm going to tell you, I was stunned. I was frozen. Yes, I was eavesdropping on the whole sad scene. Some people in this like small crowd had their arms folded in what was sort of like a defensive posture. Others were wiping away tears. Those 3 kids, young adults, I'm just going to describe them as like frozen. Frozen. And when the man finished disavowing the woman, she began reading her disavows. Saying his name, yes, like you would at a wedding. John, I disavow you as my husband. I disavow being your wife. And then she untied the traditional vows. She said something like, I'm no longer going to care for you in sickness and in health. I will no longer walk with you in joy or in sorrow. I will no longer be your helpmate in times of plenty or in want. And I will not forsake others to share a life with you. I disavow our marriage." And then she turned and looked at their kids and said, "But I do celebrate the children it has produced." I mean, uh, again, I was stunned. I could see tears streaming down the cheeks of one of those young men, but the other two, I'm just going to call them as like each holding a steely gaze. And my mind was screaming, this is not the way it's supposed to be. I mean, it was all I could do to not like rush in and break up the whole thing. But after the disavows were over, the man and the woman then took off their rings and gave them back to the other. And then, get this. You ever been to a wedding where the bride and the groom pour like 2 colors of sand together in one vessel? Well, these people had apparently done that at their wedding. And they've got that vessel of their mixed up sand. And I'm thinking, well, what are they? There's no sorting that back out. But in turn, they took it and poured the sand out onto the ground. And I'm going to tell you, at that moment, it looked like a funeral with the spreading of ashes. That's when I noticed that there was a third person holding a piece of paper. He stepped forward from the group on what would have been the bride's side if it had been a wedding. And he said something like, "Janet and Bob, you had a good run, but nothing lasts forever." And then he addressed the woman who I presume was his sister. And he said, "Janet, we receive you back into our family and we restore to you the name you were given when you were born." And in a move that I suspect was rehearsed, the man and the woman then intentionally turned their backs on one another and walked into the receptive arms of their, respective parties. That was it. Her group started walking off in one direction. His group started walking off in the opposite direction, each to like the perimeter of the park. But those 3 young adult children, they stood there in a little huddle, left in the middle of it all. I couldn't hear what they were saying to each other, but they all 3 walked together in a third direction. What God had brought together at one point in time had been dissolved, a family fractured. But what hung with me, at least in that moment, was the statement of the guy that, again, I suspect was Janet's brother, the one who had represented her support system. Like, it came back to the forefront of my mind. He said, something like, "You had a good run, but nothing lasts forever." And that's not true. That's just not true. All of this came to mind this morning as I was considering how to open with you, our Growing Your Faith verse of the day. So where in the Word are you today? We want to let God speak to us through his living and eternal Word. And our Growing Your Faith verse of the day comes from Isaiah 40, verse 8. "The grass withers and the flower fades, but the word of our God stands forever." That's what came to the forefront of my mind as I was standing out there that day. I mean, as my mind was screaming, this is not the way it's supposed to be. But when that guy said, "You had a good run, but nothing lasts forever," this is the verse that came to mind. That's not true. The grass withers and the flower fades, but the word of our God stands forever. So, my friend, if you've suffered grief, loss, the death of a marriage, the death of a friend, the death of a dream, the death of a relationship you hoped would endure, I want to offer you this solace today. The word of God really does stand forever. Go to him. Allow him to hold you. Allow God to tend to your broken and grieving heart. Plumb the depths of his word. You're right to feel the pain of loss, and it's okay to cry. Indeed, the grass withers and the flowers do fade, but the word of our God stands forever because it's the word of God. He's never going back on his word. And it always accomplishes the purpose for which he sends it forth. Lots of headlines every day from the tech world To help us sort through them from a Christian worldview, Austin Gravley joins us next from the What Would Jesus Tech podcast. You're listening to The Reconnect. What do you know about AI? What do you think you know? What do you wish you know? What questions do you have? Text lines open, 877-933-2484. Our friend Austin Gravley, who is a pastor, but he's also a co-host of the What Would Jesus Tech podcast, is joining us now. Austin, welcome back to The Reconnect.
Hey, thanks for having me, Carmen. It's great to talk to you this morning.
It's great to talk with you. So there are some sentences that I read or paragraphs that I read, and I think to myself, I feel like my grandmother would know like 4 of those 15 words. So, I mean, I think when we talk about AI models, advanced AI models, particular advanced AI models, and then restrictions that might be placed on those, like we're pretty far down into the weeds. So,
yes.
like I read this sentence, pulling back access to Anthropic's first publicly available Mythos class model could, kneecap cyber defenders. So just as they're bracing for a wave of AI-powered hacking threats. Okay, so there's just a lot in there. So let's back up. Who or what is Anthropic? What is it that they're developing that the Trump administration is seeking to restrict? And then why are cyber experts trying to convince the administration to reverse those restrictions? So let's back into it.
Yeah, those are all great questions. So Anthropic is an AI developer. They're a privately owned company that is developing AI models that you can think of OpenAI and what they build with ChatGPT, or even Google with Gemini. There's a lot of AI companies right now building AI products, and Anthropic is one of those companies, and they've built one of the more successful rivals to ChatGPT. It's called Claude. That's the name of the model. That also happens to be the name of the small town where my parents live, 30 minutes away, which is fun. It is a AI model that is very good at certain things that other AI models are not good at. And it's become my go-to AI model for some of the things I do. If you just use ChatGPT, it can do some of the things ChatGPT does, but it also can do quite a few things that ChatGPT either can't do or can't do as well. Back in April, they announced their newest model, their newest version of their AI model, and they marketed it as being so incredibly dangerous and destructive that they actually didn't put it out to everybody right away. They gave it to several of the biggest tech companies in America so they could use it to patch up securities and vulnerabilities in their software and products. And then last Friday, they decided to release a kind of pared down version of that model to the public. And then by the end of the week, the Trump administration announced that they were going to, the technical term is place these models, which are, it's called Fable, under export controls, which is a really mysterious sounding phrase to just simply say the U.S. government is going to curtail the release of this AI model that a private company has developed. To be quite candid, this is uncharted territory. It's a very clever move on the White House's part. They have not said very clearly why they did this. They've made some vague notions to national security threats that they've uncovered, but they've not actually shared those with Anthropic. And naturally, other AI companies, other AI developers here in the States are rightly very, very concerned about the precedent this sets.
So the government's concern is that this new AI model is so advanced, and one of the things that it knows how to do or has a proof of concept is that it can create blueprints for code that would let adversarial hackers into a system, potentially a
Yes.
government system. And so, like, I think, the government, the U.S. government trying to protect itself and others from AI being able to do something that would potentially wreak real havoc. I think the challenge
Right.
that we face is like, I don't know how you put such a genie back in a bottle. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. You don't put this genie back in the bottle. And the the reason why AI developers and others are really concerned about the government's move here is because if this tool really is as powerful as Anthropic has claimed and has kind of branded it as such, they they want to get their hands on it to protect their own work, to protect their own systems, to protect their own information. When Fable was announced and was given to a select handful of tech companies to use to work on their own stuff, some of the most secure systems and softwares in the world, things that were previously held to be gold standards for security and safety, Fable found flaws with and was able to get into. So I mean, we are dealing with something that has the potential to wreak unbelievable amounts of havoc. And what people are concerned about in the tech sector is that by pulling back access to this model, it creates an opening for China or for other bad actors, or even just bad actors within the states, to make attacks and to not have the tools that they might need to be able to do what they need to do to defend them from that.
Yeah, of course. Of course. Okay, let's take a very brief break. When we come back, I want to talk about our brains, and I want to talk about brain chips, because apparently China has approved the world's first brain computer chip. I thought Elon Musk was going to do that with Neuralink, so we will find out about this race and and maybe ask the question, is this something you would ever do? You're listening to the Reconnect. Hey, I really like it that you listen whenever you want, wherever you are, at all times of the day and night. That is so cool. So thank you so very much for all the ways in which you support this ministry with your prayers and words of encouragement. Right now, in order for this podcast to be available everywhere all the time for everyone, I actually need your help. Could you support this podcast right now so that more people in more places at every hour of every day could hear about Jesus and grow in their relationship with him? Click the link in the show notes or give now at myfaithradio.com. And thank you so much again for listening to this podcast. Okay, along the way, in terms of adapting ourselves to emerging technology, I bet there's been a time that you have seen something emerge in the technological world, and you've said to yourself, "I'll never do that. I'll never use my face as a password. I'll never leave my house without a wallet. I'm not going to rely on my phone as a digital wallet, or I'm not going to just rely on the GPS to get me somewhere." But now we all do that all the time, every day. So when I say, I don't think I'm getting a brain chip. I don't think I don't think I'm going that far. Maybe we're going to be in the never say never category of things. Austin Gravley is here. He's co-host of the What Would Jesus Tech podcast. Tell us about China's Neo brain chip. We all thought Elon Musk and Neuralink was going to get there first.
Yeah, it is a very surprising development because at the time, Elon Musk's Neuralink chip really was the only kind of thing like this in conversation as far as brain chips that's felt so abstract and sci-fi, and Elon Musk was the only one seeming to move anything on it. And then out of nowhere, China has approved its own brain chip. It's about the size of a coin. It's called Neo, like from the Matrix. It is past clinical trials for commercial sale, and they have beat Elon Musk to brain chips, and that is On the one hand, that is genuinely impressive. But on the other hand, like we were talking about in the previous section, I mean, we're in a very dangerous tech arms race with China right now, and this is a pretty big victory on their part to be able to get to this brand new market of computer chips in your brain. To be able to get there first is a big deal, and so we now have to start asking questions about. Would I get a brain chip? Is that something I would do? And Carmen, I got to be honest. I don't know. I want to say no, but those examples you gave were really good. Of like, yeah, I never thought I'd use my face to unlock my phone, or just have my credit card on my phone. I just tap it at the checkout at the grocery store and never swipe my credit card again. But I do both of those things all the time now.
Mm-hmm. And so if you're listening right now and you're like, I'd never do that. If you had a person in your family who was blind or losing their sight, and Neuralink said, hey, we can give blind patients vision. We can send visual data to the brain using a chip. Like, what about that? I mean, a lot of people have, quote, medical devices in their bodies.
Yeah.
And there's already, there's already technology that stimulates the brain or stops the brain from sending signals or what. So I'm thinking about restricting pain signals or there's all kinds of things that we already do. How is this different?
It's different because that's actually a great question. It's different because this is a cybernetic solution and not a biological or chemical one. When we think about medicine is a form of technology in a very basic sense. And so when we take medications for issues with our bodies, we are applying a technology to our bodies to change it and modify it to either relieve us of pain or help us do certain things better. And this is categorically a form of medicine, but a form of medicine that is able to do things that no biological or chemical form of medicine can do. And I have some friends. One of my best friends is somebody who is likely going to end up in a wheelchair before he's 50. He had his third hip replacement before he's turned 35 last week. And would I want to use one of these things as a healthy individual? Honestly, no. Would I want my friend who has 4 wonderful girls to be able to walk and play with them when his body continues to fail him? Yes, absolutely, I would. And same for anybody who's struggling with paralysis or blindness or any other disability that these computer chips might be able to help alleviate. And so I understand if your gut reaction is immediately to be creeped out or to be repulsed by this, but there needs to be some slow, careful thinking about how this can be bad for some people and how this can be something that brings a lot of healing and restoration to those who are suffering.
All right, and for the skeptic listening right now, think about all the ways that your phone, just lying there next to you, can tell you whether or not you had a good night's sleep. I don't actually know how it's doing that, but clearly there's already a little bit of an interface between what's going on in our bodies and with our technology. And so there is, I just want you to think about this. I particularly those of you who live and work and sort of run around in the medical device world. This is probably a really good conversation for you as our Christian brothers and sisters to press into and help us think about. You're already remotely programming and recharging and figuring out how to collect and transmit data to people's pacemakers. So there's already stuff in people's bodies where there is a technological external interface. And so when we think about a brain chip, we're just a little bit freaked out by that because it'd be in our heads. But What about the stuff that's already in your body that
Right.
is technically technology? Maybe that's
Yeah.
a way into this conversation.
Yeah. I mean, we're much further down this road than we already realize. This seems like a pretty big leap ahead, but we are so far down this road already. This was only a matter of time.
Hmm. All right, we could talk to you for hours about these subjects, but hours we do not have.
And,
Austin,
and
our time has evaporated. Unless there's like one
uh,
more thing that you're like, oh, but I thought we were going to talk about that, and I just need to say something.
oh man. Um, I mean, the stuff with Fable that we talked about in that first segment. I mean, I've been just been paying very close attention to that, just because that's a in my world and what we talk about and what would Jesus Tech. That's a big deal. That may
Hmm.
seem like an arcane story, but that's a very big story. That out of all the things we talk about, that one might be worth keeping an eye on if you're unfamiliar with it.
All right, you should check out the What Would Jesus Tech podcast. You can do that at whatwouldjesusTech.com. Obviously, wherever you get your podcast, you could check it out as well. Austin, as always, thank you for being with us on the Reconnect.
Oh, it's my pleasure, Carmen. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, really fun. Okay, I know that it's June. And so depending where you live and depending maybe where you've traveled, it's also Pride Month, LGBTQIA plus Pride Month in America. And so unsurprisingly, there is a controversy about whether or not those who play sports have to wear the pride themed stuff. This emerges every year at some point in time because somebody's got pride jerseys or pride hats or pride something, and somebody on some team doesn't want to wear it. Okay, so this year it is pride themed caps in Major League Baseball. And we've got players who are resisting that. And the way that they resisted this time around was to write something on the cap. Well, the San Francisco Giants pitchers appeared in Friday night's game with Bible verses written on their Pride Night caps. And following that, Major League Baseball issued a warning that, we just can't tolerate that. So here's the reality. You can't, there's a rule in Major League Baseball, a written rule, that you can't put anything on your outfit. So the rule is the policy. Nothing can be written, attached, affixed, embroidered, or otherwise displayed on apparel or playing equipment. And so Major League Baseball, the league, is, saying, hey, we weren't policing the content of what they wrote. We're not saying, you can't believe and celebrate Genesis 9:12-16, which was the passage at issue. We're not talking about the content of the speech. We're talking about how it was presented, because you can't do that. So I'll just say this. In the same way that Major League Baseball wants to apply this policy of you can't write anything, you can't present anything on your outfit or on your gear, maybe they could also allow for religious exemption from being compelled to wear messages that are contrary to an individual's sincerely held religious beliefs. So if I can't write on it, maybe you shouldn't be able to make me wear it. Just a thought. Jason Romano from Sports Spectrum is joining us next while we're on the sports page. He's going to tell us about a bunch of people that are playing in this year's 2026 FIFA World Cup who are Christ-following brothers. And so we're going to get up to speed on that next. You're listening to The Reconnect. Are you watching the FIFA World Cup? Have you heard about the people in Lawrence, Kansas who've completely transformed their community to adopt a team? There's some great stories out there. Jason Romano brings us great stories from across the world of sports at the intersection with faith. SportsSpectrum.com is the website. Hey, Jason, welcome back.
It's good to be back, Carmen. How are you?
I'm very well. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Bring us some good news stories from the 2026 FIFA World Cup. You guys are talking about and following some brothers in Christ who are running around on the field.
We are, yeah. I'll start with our Sports Spectrum magazine, and we can talk more about that maybe at the end. But that magazine right now is out and has 5 players to watch coming up with the World Cup. It's our World Cup issue, our summer issue. So people should check that out, especially because the World Cup's going on for another month. I think the championship game is being played July 19th. So if you're into the World Cup, which I have been, I don't know. I think I'm transformed, Carmen, into a soccer fan now, because I wasn't really a soccer fan. I wasn't really big into the World Cup. And then I went to Los Angeles last week. I didn't go to the game, but I was in the area of where the opener was for the USA team when they played Uruguay and getting ready for their first game. And I was at the fan festival at the LA Coliseum, and I kind of got bit by the fever of the World Cup. And I started watching these games and the way that the countries are just rallying around, like you said. I think Lawrence, Kansas, adopting Algeria, and then you see the Scots coming into Boston, and you get all these. Yeah, I saw a ton of Mexican fans for Mexico, obviously, in Los Angeles. It's awesome. I just love the country and the fan and the pride, and the soccer is really good too. So, but yeah, you mentioned some feel good stories. There's a ton of them. I'll start with the U.S. team because last week they obviously played so great in their opener on Friday night. They play again this Friday at 3:00 Eastern, I believe. So tomorrow at 3, and they play Australia. But it was wonderful to watch them do so well on the pitch, as they call it, on the field. But afterwards, this was kind of a surprise. We weren't expecting this, but Mark McKenzie, who we talked to on Sports Spectrum's podcast, was in the middle of a circle at the end of the game, and it was barely shown on TV. And it wasn't because TV was boycotting it. It was just they were getting to their next thing. But it was a prayer circle. And the entire team came together in a prayer circle after the match. And Mark McKenzie, who's a player on the team, just a really good player, really great guy, loves the Lord, was leading that prayer. And we got a video from the team chaplain who sent it to us at Sports Spectrum, and we shared it on our Instagram page. And the thing went crazy. It got over 1 million views on all of our socials. And it was just a nice little reminder of the unity that can happen within a team when you're talking about, even if they're not all Christians, they came together and said, you know what, this is important for us. And Mark McKenzie took the bold step to lead the team in prayer. So that was wonderful. And then I don't know if you watched the France game, I believe it was on Sunday, but there was a moment when they won their match, and I'm sorry, it was the Germany match. Forgive me.
I was going to say, was it Germany and Curacao?
It was in Curacao.
Yeah.
That's right. And so Curacao, by the way, the smallest nation ever to make the World Cup. They got a kid named Kenji Gore on their team who is just so filled with the Holy Spirit. It's really wonderful to watch. And this guy just loves Jesus. And there's this guy, Kenji on Curacao, and he and another player from Germany have been putting together this movement that is starting to make a few waves in the World Cup circle. Because what they wanted to do was they wanted to say, okay, how can we glorify God on the pitch? We can't wear, speaking, I heard you talking about wearing,
We can't
Bible
wear
verses.
crosses.
You can't wear crosses. You can't wear shirts that say anything else but your country. So what you can do, though, is sort of celebrate, because the celebrations are always a big deal. And this celebration of the King's return. And I want people to think about this, the King's return. So imagining the crown that's placed on so many of these soccer players' heads as being the great soccer player that they are. They score a goal. This guy in Germany scores a goal. He gets on his knee and he takes the de facto crown off his head and lays it on the ground. And what he's doing is saying, I'm laying my crown down for the King who's going to be returning someday, as in King Jesus. And if you go to thekingsreturn.com, Sports Spectrum's a part of this movement and helping get this out there. It's a global movement with so many different players from all over the world that love Jesus and want to honor God on the pitch at the World Cup. And this King's Return opportunity is there. And we're hoping it kind of catches fire and also kind of spreads to other sports too. And the idea of, okay, Jesus is returning someday. That's a promise that he has said. Let us honor our King in all that we do. That's Colossians 3. But in this case, the World Cup, the biggest stage of all for soccer, let's lay our crowns down at the feet of Jesus. So it's pretty cool.
It's so cool. That's so cool. Thekingsreturn.com. thekingsreturn.com. We're more than happy to send you the direct link on the text line. There's also articles out there about the prayer circle that took place at the end of the first game that the United States participated in. That prayer circle gathering global attention. Those post-game prayers led by Christian athletes. That's something that maybe we're familiar with here in the United States, and it's exciting and it thrills my heart to see people from all over the world drawn in. One of the things that as I go to sportspectrum.com and I read an article like 11 Christ following players to watch at the World Cup. When I read an article like that, one of the things that I'm just exhilarated by is that God's got people all over the world. There are Christian brothers and sisters all over the world. And events like this give us an opportunity to shine a light on that. There are brothers in Christ from every nation, tribe, and tongue. There is a little glimpse of the kingdom of heaven going on.
Yes. Yeah, I love that. I mean, that's go into the world, Jesus says, right? And preach the gospel. And it's not go into the United States or go into, Jerusalem or anywhere specific. He's talking about the entire world. That was always his mission, was to see the gospel spread to the ends of the earth. And yes, this is just a little glimpse. And that's what's beautiful, because I think for any of us just in the United States, we're in our own little world, our own little city, our own little town with our church, and we kind of live our lives. And we forget there are people in Brazil and Belgium and England and the Netherlands and Mexico and Ghana and the Congo, all over the world, Africa, that are praising Jesus and love the Lord. And that's been beautiful to see too, is just the way, because the cultures are a little different, right? Some are a little more quieter, some are a little more excited and outgoing. And I love seeing the devotion to Jesus all over the world, and it's coming together here in the United States and North America with the World Cup. So it's been wonderful to see.
All right, we are gonna take a very brief break, and when we come back, we're gonna move off the pitch. We're gonna move off of soccer here for a moment, and we're gonna talk about baseball. I'm gonna have Jason Romano tell us about Mason Miller. He's a pitcher for the Padres. That's up next here on the Reconnect. All right, so you've got a pack of cards. You've heard of a pack of wolves. Maybe you have a backpack. You got a lot of packs in your life. But have you ever gotten a Faith Radio welcome pack? I mean, you might be brand new to Faith Radio, or you might just be new-ish, but either way, if you've never gotten a welcome pack, we'd like to welcome you. So text the word welcome to 877-933-2484 or visit myfaithradio.com and request your very own welcome pack today. Take me out to the ball game. I do love me some baseball. Jason Romano is here with us from Sports Spectrum. You can find what we're talking about now at sportsspectrum.com. Jason, tell us about Mason Miller.
Mason Miller. He might be my favorite story in the world of baseball right now. He's on the San Diego Padres. I call him a stud because he is the most dominant relief pitcher in baseball, I'll say right now. He's going to be an all-star in about a month. They'll name the all-star team, maybe a few more weeks. They'll name the all-star team, and Mason Miller will be on that team. I'd be shocked if he wasn't. He throws about 104 miles an hour. If you follow baseball, a really solid top-of-the-line pitcher throws about 97 to 98 miles an hour, and he's adding another 6 miles to his pitch. It's almost impossible to catch up to his fastball. So he's dominating on the field right now. But what's really fascinating is his journey was never one where you were like, yep, this kid has it from the time he's 16, 17, 18 years old. He went to a Division III school called Waynesburg University to start out his college career. So Division III, right there, you're behind the 8 ball and likely not making it to the majors. Then he gets to Division...
My nephew is a student at Waynesburg.
How about that? Okay, I knew there was going to be a connection. I had no idea how, but I knew it. That's amazing. Then he goes to Gardner-Webb. So he plays one more year, goes to Division I his last year at Gardner-Webb, which is not a powerhouse like what's happening right now with North Carolina or Oklahoma in the College World Series. But he goes to Division I at Gardner-Webb. He has some success there, and then he's drafted. in the third round of the 2021 draft by the then Oakland Athletics. He makes his major league debut 2 years later, so he did ascend pretty quickly through the minors. And by 2024, he was an all-star in the American League with the A's. And then the A's did something that sometimes they do and their fans aren't big fans of. They trade him. And he went to the Padres in 2025, a year ago, helped them to the playoffs. And then he was named to the USA World Baseball Classic roster back in March and did great there. But aside from that, a couple of things that I love about him. First of all, if we're talking about him, that means he loves the Lord. That means he loves Jesus, and he's got this really strong faith. But you know where his faith was rooted and sort of grown in was when he battled diabetes. And you just don't hear a lot of athletes battling diabetes. And he was battling it through high school. And, you know, he was telling the story on the podcast of how he's in this room getting treatment for diabetes. And there's other kids that are like 5, 6, 7 years old in there. And he's 17 wondering, what am I doing here? And it was holding him back. It was really affecting him. And, you know, he was able to get the right treatment. He was healed, as he said. He really devoted his life to follow Christ after that. And now I just see a guy who is as humble. If you listen to the podcast we did with him, it released last week, he has like the deepest voice too. Very kind of monotone, very deep. Like he could be I don't know what he could be. He could be a PA announcer for a sport or something, but he has this deep, deep growling voice, but he loves the Lord. He's so humble. And he's still only 27 or 28 years old. He's getting married soon. I mean, things are going good for Mason Miller right now, and he's a guy that we can cheer for.
I love that. Okay, let's pivot here to the NHL because there's a story that you want to tell us about some brothers.
Yeah. So Jacob Slavin, who is one of the best defensemen in the NHL in hockey, plays for the Carolina Hurricanes. They just won the Stanley Cup, their first Stanley Cup in, I think, 20 years. And it was a great run for them. So Jacob has been on Sports Spectrum a few times. He got to play this year for the first time on the ice with his brother Josiah, which was a really wonderful story. To be able to play with your brother in any sport on the same team is obviously very rare and unique. And he was able to do that. Jacob is also a Team USA gold medal winning champion. When our USA team won the Olympic gold back in February at the Winter Olympics, Jacob was on that team and contributed mightily. And we talked to him in March, and you'll like this, Carmen. So we have him on, and we want to talk about what it's like to win a gold medal and the Olympic experience. Basically, they take off for about 3 weeks in the NHL to allow the Olympics to go and have their time. So Jacob, at the time when he comes on Sports Spectrum, you know, the Hurricanes are doing really well. And I just said to him, hey, you ever think about the fact that you might win a gold medal and then maybe, who knows, win a Stanley Cup championship? And he's like, if it's God's will, it'll happen. He's like, but win or lose, I'm giving all praise to Jesus. And I said, good answer, good answer. Well, fast forward, and here he is now, a gold medal winner and a Stanley Cup champion in the span of 4 months. It's the second guy ever to win a gold medal and a Stanley Cup championship ever, not just in 1 year, but ever. And Jacob Slavin, you want to talk about humble. You want to talk about a guy who, after they won the other night, said, listen, my joy is not found in this championship. It was really fascinating to watch him say this. He said, my joy is found in Jesus because this title tomorrow, there's no hockey. So if I just bask in this, it's going to fade. And then we're going to go to the next season and we might not win a title. So where's my joy? My joy is found in the constant, consistent walking and rooting in Jesus Christ. And I thought, all right, I'm a Jacob Slavin fan. I got to go get his jersey now. He's amazing.
He's one of those guys that kind of makes me wonder if you could ask him, you know, like, okay, 2026, you know, was the highlight the gold medal? Was the highlight the Stanley Cup? Was the highlight being on the ice with your brother? Or was the highlight, you know, that one of your teammates came to Christ and was baptized through your witness? You
Which
know what
it
I mean?
did.
Like,
Yeah, and
I
that
know,
happened.
because that
That's
happened
amazing.
too.
Yes, it's incredible because imagine, you know, he witnesses, if you will, or shares about the gospel to one of his teammates, Jamie Chadwick, and then all of a sudden, Jamie wants to get baptized and follow Christ. And I'm thinking, that's the win to me. I mean,
Yeah.
all the other things are
Me
great,
too.
but if you got one guy on your team that wants to follow Christ and he does and he gets baptized, that's better than any Stanley Cup you could ever win.
You see what I'm saying? Like, it's just so, it all circles back around to that, like the King's Return conversation, because
Yes.
these guys, I mean, they are at the top of their particular thing. And their thing is hard. Like only a handful of people get to do what they get to do. And they are doing it, at the highest level possible. And they're doing it with joy, and they're doing it as people of faith. And they are doing it with humility. And it really is. It's, if you're listening right now and you're like, how can I get my grandson, my nephew, the young men in my church, how can I get them to see what a real man looks like? Strong, fun, productive, humble. Like Sports Spectrum is where you can go, because they've got the stories. They've got the stories of real people in the real world playing at the highest of levels, but doing so with the humility of Christ. It really is just wonderful. So avail yourself of the Sports Spectrum magazine and all of the resources that are available at sportspectrum.com, certainly the podcast as well. Again, sportspectrum.com. Jason, as always, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks, Carmen. Thanks so much for having me. I always enjoy it.
Absolutely. That's Jason Romano. He was on a recent edition of a podcast that is hosted by some of my colleagues, Wyatt Morrell and Ryan. And it's, I should know the name of it off the top of my head. Paul, help me out.
A champion unlike any other.
Yeah, a champion unlike any other. And it's a sports-related podcast here from Faith Media. And so you can check that out as well at myfaithpodcasts.com. Jason Romano was a recent guest on their program. And so if you want to hear more of Jason's personal story, you can get that there as well. Yeah, it's not good when your brain like turns off for a moment and you're like, what is the name of the podcast? But there you go. Does that ever happen to you? Do you ever forget for a moment? Well, this is The Reconnect, and we would love for you to be an advocate of this ministry. If you love this show, would you share it with somebody else? I mean, The Reconnect's also available as a podcast. You could follow us on Apple Podcasts, leave us a rating, a review. Maybe you listen on Spotify. You could give us a follow. And if you're over there on YouTube, you should be subscribed to the Reconnect with Carmen YouTube channel. And you're going to say to yourself, but there's nothing there for me to watch. Yeah, we know that, but it's coming. That component of the show is in the works and headed your direction soon. So go ahead and subscribe to the Reconnect with Carmen YouTube channel. Click on the little notifications thing wherever you listen as a podcast or get the show so that you'll never miss an episode. We've got another hour together up next on this Thursday, the 18th of June. We'll come right back with some headlines and seek to apply the mind of Christ to what's going on in the world today. Thanks for listening to The Reconnect with Carmen LaBerge. Let us know how we can help you more fully reconnect the eternal with the everyday. We want to walk with you throughout your journey of discipleship, so let's connect. You can text us at 877-933-2484 or connect with us online at myfaithradio.com and on all our social media. I look forward to connecting with you as we each seek to reconnect the eternal with the everyday.